Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, formerly known as SavageTechman. And if you've been wondering where our new episodes are, well, I've been out making movies. So I'm joined today here with Scott Schreiber.
Hey.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the blog post you did way back on the Academy Awards and stuff. We had a lot of great feedback from that. And
Great, yeah.
good response.
Had a great time.
Hope
putting
to
that
hear
together.
some more from you. We're talking about the summer of 2017, the summer that wasn't at the box office.
Yes, for the most part. There were some gems in there, but for the most part,
There were enough bombs
Yeah.
to bomb a country or something. Anyhow, first off, at the recording of this, not really to date this episode, but we send our thoughts and prayers out to everybody in Houston, Texas, going through the aftermath in that area, and including Louisiana of Hurricane Harvey. So it's been a terrible summer. Literally a week ago, we had the total solar eclipse, and everyone was looking at the sun, and now just a little over a week later, everybody's looking for the sun, so it's amazing. But hopefully that's a situation that can get taken care of, and hopefully everybody finds themselves safe. So our thoughts and prayers go out to you.
yeah, with things, with things going on like that, I kind of understand why the box office is a little lower this summer.
Right. Yes.
Serious things going on instead.
Yeah, real life intrudes upon this imaginary life. But we're going to look at the overall box office now. This begins, there are a lot of good movies, and you're going to say, well, where the heck are they? Well, they'll be in our year-end review, okay? At the
Right,
end of the
movies
year.
like Get Out,
And
Beauty and the Beast.
Logan, we're going to see
Logan,
again.
of course.
Yeah. Fate of the Furious, we're going to see later. Our qualifications for this episode is summer movies, and summer movies begin the first weekend in May. So the first movie that came out the first weekend in May was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for the releases, the big tentpole release. So we're looking from Guardians of the Galaxy to this present week, essentially up to Labor Day.
Which the last 2 weeks has really sputtered out. There's no
Yeah.
life in the movie theaters right now. But
The only thing we really have to look forward to is It, and I think that's coming after Labor Day. So
And,
technically it wouldn't be a summer movie.
right, and I'm going to go see Wind River this afternoon, a critically acclaimed film right now. But yeah, it's kind of that.
With
that's ushering
Scarlet
in-
Witch and
Yeah, Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch are solving a murder out in Alaska or something. I don't know,
yeah,
but
that's cool.
But yeah, it's it should be good. It's written and directed by the same guy that did Sicario and Hell
Okay.
or High Water. So, but that should usher in kind of these Oscar type movies for the fall and usher out the summer of blockbusters.
Well, we definitely have one in both of our lists here that's Oscar worthy in our thoughts.
Yeah,
so
we'll get to that one, and
we'll get there.
First, we'll go through losers.
well, first off, the overall box office. I guess we
Yeah.
kind of touched on this.
Overall, loser.
Overall loser. Everybody's waiting for The Last Jedi at the end of the year. That's the only thing. Even that can't save the box office. This is the worst box office in about 30 years, roughly since 1980. That's what I'm reading. Just people aren't going to movies. There's sort of a backlash on the pricing of movies and people just staying in and
and the
watching it and streaming
Right,
stuff.
the way you can access it now. You can watch these films on demand when they're in the
Right.
theater.
And so that, but still there's certain movies that I'm going to go, certainly a Star Wars movie, I'm going to go see. Some of these tentpole releases were meant to be seen and heard in that perfect surround sound. And I love the stadium seating and the recliners,
Nothing beats going to the theater in my mind. I mean, even if
Exactly.
it's an independent little film,
because
I
guess
don't mind
what? It gets you away from your normal life. It gives you that escapism, and that's really what the movies are about. They're to teach you things, but they're also to entertain you. So some of the movies, we're going to start off with the losers, the ones that didn't entertain hardly anybody, the ones that the studio execs are scratching their heads. Why? What
And
happened?
The main loser of the summer.
Drum roll.
I believe it'd be King Arthur.
Yeah, King Arthur. There was no legend in this movie at all. Legend of the Sword. It looked like King Arthur fell on the sword when it came out. I mean, we're just looking at it. Only did about 39 million. Its budget was $500 trillion. And so no,
close to that. No, I think it was around 150. I think that may be a little bit over, but it was at least 120, in that range. So. It probably did a little bit of business overseas, but you're still looking at $100 million loss. I mean,
so there's no way to really recoup that, and what it might make internationally is still not enough.
No,
and
I think
that's another thing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it shows that maybe the world isn't ready for Charlie Hunnam as a lead actor.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, his other film this summer, The Lost City of Z, was much better, but it was not in any theaters. I think it barely made any money, and while critically acclaimed, it just didn't make any money, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Probably the worst movie I saw, and a lot of us agreed with it. We have an episode called Transformerless, but Transformers: The Last Night.
Yeah,
they were just trying to grab it cash. It did about 130 million domestic, but it's done gangbusters in China and where it was made for, in places like that internationally.
It made its money overseas, but as far as the franchise goes, it took a huge hit domestically. It's not the only franchise that took that hit.
There were a lot of franchises that were losers.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think even though the numbers look decent, I mean, like Despicable Me has a lot, like 250 million, but compared to its predecessors, it's not making as much.
It's not making as much.
Cars 3 took a hit. Pirates took a hit, even though its numbers look decent.
I didn't even care to see Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, I enjoyed the movies, but basically they're the same movie.
They are. It was fun. It was a fun movie, but yeah, was it, something to say, hey, you got to go see this? No.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't for me. There were losers. There, most of these were losers.
Most of them are.
And Baywatch was terrible. I know it was filmed locally here, and I know I need to support the movie industry, but it just wasn't the right tone, the right feel for it. I know some people like that.
I mean, it was one of those that I didn't feel even compelled to go see, and it was filmed here, and that says a lot. I mean, it's. I've seen, I think I counted them out, I saw 25 films over the summer, and that was not one of them.
Yeah. We have ones like, let's talk another franchise movie here, Alien Covenant.
Yeah. Another regression.
The Prometheus sequel or something. I don't know what it was. I wanted the Prometheus sequel. We didn't get it.
No, I think what they tried to do here, what Ridley Scott tried to do here is exactly what J.J. Abrams did with the Star Wars franchise. He took the script of A New Hope, J.J. Abrams that is, and then just kind of
Be careful, you're walking on hallowed ground.
No, I think he did a good job with that. I think while he used a lot of similarities to the original script, he made it, he reinvented it for this generation. And introduced
and he kept
a
it in the
generation.
universe. It felt like it fit.
Right.
Yeah, so...
And while Alien does the same thing, and it feels like it fits, it feels more like just a retread of the same story. And to me, that's more disappointing because it's Ridley Scott himself.
Right.
It's Ridley Scott himself. It's not J.J. Abrams stepping into this new
trying
universe.
to put his own take on it.
It's Ridley Scott stepping back into his own universe. So you'd expect something a little different. But to me, it was just a rehashing of the old films, and it was a little disappointing.
It didn't answer those Prometheus questions that everyone wanted answered, and so in that it was frustrating as hell.
Right.
And I would have gone and seen a Prometheus sequel, but I really didn't want an alien hybrid, no pun intended, of a movie. And it's what they tried to bring it into that universe, and that's the story for another day.
Hopefully, Ridley Scott's next one, which is he's producing, he's producing the Blade Runner sequel, which I'm not huge on mini sequels. I like original films, but God, am I excited about Blade Runner. So hopefully Ridley, and Denis Villeneuve, who's directing it, and I love him as a director. I think they're going to kill it, and hopefully, it lives up to the hype. But
the next loser on the list, and I hate to say this because I'm such a big fan, and I don't care about how he is as an actor, but I respect him as an actor and as a businessman in the movies. Tom Cruise, The Mummy, the Dark Universe, that this was going to be the Iron Man of the Dark Universe, and it did dismal here. It was one of his lowest openings ever, and it did better internationally, but it still didn't do gangbusters.
No.
And
so it leaves a cloud
sad.
over that franchise. Like they're wanting to start this Dark Universe franchise. So do they keep going? They probably do. But, I think their expectations have to be
readjusted.
Yeah, exactly.
And there were other movies that there were so many that were just terrible, and I don't even want to go into them.
Well, I mean, we can touch on them a little bit. I mean, the comedies for the most part did terrible.
There really
Rough
wasn't...
Night, The House, Snatched, they all underperformed. I think. Let's see, Girls Trip was probably
the most successful.
That
of
one
that.
and The Big Sick. But Girls Trip is over $100 million right now. It's
well,
insane.
the Big Sick I did not see. I wanted to see. I got a feeling that might have been not considered really a loser so much financially or otherwise. I think it might have been a good.
Well, I'm looking at it. It says $39 million, and that movie they probably spent $2 million, maybe $5 million. So it definitely made money.
Yeah, because I don't know. I wanted to see it, and I had high hopes for it. So who were some of the winners in our opinion, you think?
Well, the obvious one is Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, a movie that was I was really rooting for this because early on the rumors were that they're having script problems, director problems, blah blah, all kind of problems, 99 problems, and Wonder Woman ain't one. But Patty Jenkins pulled off a great movie. To me, one of the best of 2017. Obviously, the box office spoke that way. Mm-hmm. Will it go down as comparisons to The Dark Knight? I could see some of the comparisons. It's Dark Knight is still completely different. Thank God, because Wonder Woman is very much like Man of Steel. And what's interesting, of all the superhero adaptation origin stories, Wonder Woman has now beat all of them, including Iron Man, which is impressive, which is in Marvel universe there. But Patty Jenkins did a great job of directing this movie, and the part where Wonder Woman comes out in full regalia and she's charging across, I think, no man's land, as they called it.
Yeah, that's
that was my Christopher Reeve Superman moment. There were moments, the hair was standing up on my arms. It was that engaging. I got caught up in that. We saw it in IMAX 3D, Cheryl and I did, and then we went and saw it later in 2D, and I found some problems with the movie. It's kind of, and I've said this before on the podcast, it's kind of Captain America, the First Avenger, and his little group of guys that he has there. They were kind of useless in this movie, like Steve Trevor's little gang of guys. They really weren't that interesting. Like the sniper who couldn't snipe, and I maybe I'm being a little bit too hard and a little too picky. But all in all, it was a great movie. I would not call it a loser whatsoever. It was definitely a winner.
I only saw it once, so I didn't go back and nitpick it as you did. But I didn't have my only issue, and it wasn't even really with the film. It was probably with the theater itself. I saw it in 3D in a theater, and the calibration. It was very dark, and that happens with a lot of 3D movies. And it's not necessarily.
Batman, I was running the projector because I'm the Dark Knight.
Yeah, right.
I'm the head of the universe, not Superman in this. Well, Superman's all mopey. I mean, even Man of Steel, which is the Iron Man of the DC universe, it's basically the Iron Man. It beat original, Man of Steel movie. Yeah. I mean, it's beat all of them. It's now the Wonder Woman's honestly, women are taking over. Sisters are doing it for themselves.
And as of right now, I'd say it's saved DC Universe for now.
Because and I know there are defenders of Suicide Squad, and I'm a defender because I didn't like it, even though I've seen it a couple times. The Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman, I still will watch that movie. I still will defend that movie. That was a good movie. It was 3 good movies smashed into one, 3 great storylines. It could have been 3 totally different movies.
And that's the issue with it.
But I still wanted Superman a little bit more. I want him to smile once in a while. I think he'd be happier if he smiled,
Yeah, I mean, just think about Martha.
Yeah, I know. And the Martha thing. Why did you say that name, Martha? Like, really? Okay. There's a little screenwriting problem there, but all in all, we're digressing. We're digressing. But winners, Wonder Woman, definitely a winner.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, loved it.
That came in second as far as box office of the summer. And, it's not as hard to beat the first one, but it's damn good. It's nearly as good as the first.
We saw it, and it was the theater. We were in the Big D, and we saw it 5 times, the opening of it, including the credits, because it was in this weird pink and blue. I thought we were watching Suicide Squad or something. So we got to watch Baby Groot 5 times, and then they finally got the 3D going.
Calibration, right.
And when our movie was over, people were walking in the end, and so they had that spoiler version of the end of the movie. But I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed Kurt Russell in it. Even though I saw a report, he said that Chris Pratt was an ass on the set, but I think he was just in character being Star-Lord, man. But definitely a winner this year, box office wise, and I would say critic wise or fan wise.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It was across the board.
Spider-Man: Homecoming. Thank God for the leak way back years ago, the Sony leak, and we found out they were gonna do something with Spider-Man, and this eventually put a lot of things in place that got Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe and Civil War, which was awesome. And Tom Holland, because I'm kind of a purist, and Tobey Maguire's probably to this point was my favorite Spider-Man, he was my favorite Peter Parker. I heard someone say that Andrew Garfield was their favorite. A friend of mine, the Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man. And I think Tom Holland might be the best of both of them. I think they got his age right. He is still older for the role.
He encompasses that vulnerability, that the innocence of the teenager,
exactly
that Peter Parker is supposed to be. So I think how he's struggling with being a teenager, and he's had this moment out on the tarmac with all the heroes where he's done something miraculous. And so he's it is an interesting story of that.
But it had great humor in it. And Michael Keaton as Vulture, I didn't think he could pull it off, and I shouldn't have doubted him. He's as good of a Batman as he was, or as great as a Batman as he was. He's just as good, like deliciously good, in that sense of how he gets into his role, like in the car where he's talking to Peter, and he's like, I'll kill you. I'll come after your family. And you're like,
he's a great villain.
He did a great villain, is what I'm getting at, And he was an integral part of that movie. If they had someone else in that role, I don't think I would have cared as much about the movie. But
because he's supposed to be a sympathetic character too.
He was sympathetic. You got it, because he's basically the cleanup force for Stark. He had his own company and he's making his money, and then Stark comes in and says, "Okay, no, we got this. Avengers, we got whatever." Stark cleanup, and so they corporately took it over from him and basically put him out of business. So he becomes an arms dealer. Did have a problem though when he went too quick to kill one of his guys. I thought that was a little bit of a jump, but still a winner in my book, and fun. And I enjoyed Tom Holland's performance. He may not be as good of an actor as Tobey Maguire. It wasn't as serious as Spider-Man 2, but it fit. It seemed like this is where a reimagining of the role. And thank God we didn't do the origin story. And we got so many tech goodies because the Iron Spider suit's coming.
Well, and that's a avenue they can go down with this character because
Right.
he's a teenager. They can bring in this whole social media idea, like that was brought in, more so on how
totally,
he communicates. And
it felt very relevant is the word I'm looking for this time. And
to this day and age,
even though
absolutely.
I still have a soft spot for the Aunt May and the older lady that played Aunt May. I love Marissa Tomei in there, but she was kind of young, I think, to be Peter's aunt. But I guess it could be possible.
Well, I think that we're just old
Maybe that's
now because if you think about Tomei, she won an Oscar, in 91?
Was it?
It was right around there.
My cousin Vinny still loved that
So that's
movie.
like
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
So she's probably
Yeah.
50 years old. She can be an aunt.
She could. Yeah, she could.
I hate
guess.
to think about that, but we're old.
Yeah, I'm feeling quite old now and slow. Let's see.
What else? Big winners. Dunkirk did well.
Yeah, did well.
Let's see. And we'll talk about some of these when we
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about our best films of the year, and that certainly is one of them. Planet of the Apes, I mean, the numbers look good, but I don't know how much it took to make. I don't know what their budget was, but it made $142 million so far.
I think it was less than all of the other ones,
Yeah.
but I liked it.
I did too. I thought it was a fitting ending to a trilogy. It worked really well as a trilogy. They definitely wrapped it up. They could also, if they wanted to in the future, reboot it. They could certainly go from that story and move forward.
Right.
But they definitely made it to where, it's a satisfying ending.
Exactly. Should we just go now? Are you thinking to our top movies?
Yeah, I'll
let
touch
you
just briefly on a couple more winners before.
Okay, sure.
Before I'll do it real briefly, and then we'll
Sure.
get into the best part of it is talking about our favorite films.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as other winners, Annabelle Creation was a surprise. I thought a winner. It's made $79 million so far. Horror films in the summer.
And it just came out in August, yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's already at $79 million.
beginning of the month here.
And when you've got other horror films that came out in the summer, like It Comes at Night, looks at $13 million, Wish Upon $14 million, not great numbers. And even, I mean, I guess you could kind of count Dark Tower in that realm a little bit.
I ended up not seeing Dark Tower and wish I would have, and I know you did.
Yeah, and it had its moments, but overall it had this just lighter tone than I expected.
Right.
And just didn't follow through.
Idris Elba, I probably did a great job. And,
He was great, yeah.
and then I just
McConaughey.
is the bad guy. I don't.
And
see
he
it.
was kind of cartoonish. And I don't, and that was maybe a problem with the film.
Well, Woody Harrelson didn't do a bad job in Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the Apes. I mean, he was believable. He did better than I thought he would. So what else
then
you got?
other little winners, I would say, like as far as like low budget films, 47 Meters Down, the shark thriller with Mandy Moore, made $43 million.
Wow.
And I mean, for that little movie, that's great. All Eyes on Me, $44 million. That's not bad.
Tupac
even
movie.
though, the Tupac movie, even though it's a mess of a movie in my opinion, it was just like the guy they got to play Tupac. He looks just like him.
He looked like Tupac,
and
Tupac
he did a
was
decent
back.
job. But the movie itself is just all over the place. It's a mess. And, Big Sick, we talked about, that's a winner.
Right.
And we'll talk about Baby Driver in a second. That was a big winner.
Yeah.
$103 million.
A very intuitive way of making movies. How they did it and edited it on. They shoot something, then they send it downstream to the I guess the DIT person. They sync the movie or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
he had Edgar Wright, the director, had a plan, like a very laid out specific plan with the music that he was using, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into our top films. Let's move into that direction. So,
Sure. Well, that sounds great. Go ahead.
You want to start with my top 10?
Sure.
Okay.
By all means.
Since I'm the guest, I get to.
You're the
start.
guest. You get to select.
There's going to be a little overlap here. I'll do 10 because I saw more.
You actually saw more than I did.
Yeah.
So I have no problems really narrowing mine down to 5.
Okay. But I'll start with 10. And my number 10 was actually considered a flop. It only made $39 million. I know the budget was probably $100 at least. And it was Luc Besson's Valerian. I thought it was much better than advertised. I think Luc Besson does an incredible job of world building. There's some great 3D effects in it. I think that it kind of got a rough rap. I don't know if people just thought it was like the creatures looked silly or bizarre or whatever. I mean, if you didn't like
maybe
Fifth
we weren't
Element,
ready for it, still after 20, 30 years. I mean, this movie's supposed to, the graphic novel and all is supposed to almost predate Star Wars, and so it's probably 40 years old, and it's been trying to come to screen for decades.
Yeah,
and I didn't see it. I was working on films, and so that's a good reason I didn't see a lot of films this year that I wanted to see. But for me, it looks fantastically gorgeous as a
visually,
film.
It's stunning.
The visuals could probably be nominated for something,
right?
Visual effects or
visual
something.
Effects for sure.
But I didn't really care about the story. It just seemed like this, Valerian, this teenager, kind of, I don't know, maybe it wasn't in my demographic. I don't know.
And it's not a very complex plot.
It looks complex from what the trailer showed,
and it's really not. I think the biggest problems it has are the tone. It's like the fifth. It tries to capture that Fifth Element tone between humor and action and thriller. And to an extent it does, but you're only as good as your actors.
Exactly. You don't have Bruce Willis, or is the Fifth Element copying Valerian?
Well, I think that.
And when you make it, how true can you be to that source 30, 40 years, later? I mean, and when something's written in a certain timepiece, you have to evolve it as a film and make it relevant to today's audience, I think. So maybe that was part of the issue. I don't know.
As a whole, though, I'm going to support this film and get people to watch it.
They promoted the hell out of it.
Yeah, visually, if you like eye candy, this is it. It's
well, thank you. No,
I'm talking about Ed, not the movie.
Yeah.
But it deserved a little more recognition, I think. There's one scene at the beginning where they go into an alternate universe. He has to put glasses on to see it. There's this big empty desert, but if you put the glasses on, you all of a sudden see this huge marketplace world, and in 3D, you definitely get immersed in it. And
I can't believe that it only did like 40 million. That
I know. It
doesn't make sense. I would have thought it would have broke 100 million at least.
Luc Besson's last film, Lucy, made buku dollars, and maybe that's because of Scarlett. But
I enjoyed that. Cheryl did not. She thought it was a pretty bad movie. I thought it was okay. And and I'll but I wanted to slip that in there to the top because there are some flaws with it, but I feel like out of the movies I saw, is that like your number 10 or is that an honorable mention?
No, that's my number 10. I'm not doing an honorable mention.
You're not doing an honorable mention?
No, I cut it out because we'll cover enough in your top 5 as well.
That's fine.
My number 9 is Logan Lucky. I'm a big Steven Soderbergh fan. He goes back to his roots of just kind of these fun heist film.
And that had James Bond in it, right? What's his name?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, and he was so
Introducing Daniel Craig as Joe Bang,
who is coming back for the 25th Bond movie. So I'm excited.
Sign on for that,
and definitely going to be his last one because his contract, he's done. He started being Bond, James Bond.
Don't blame.
Then after that, we'll probably get Idris Elba, or we'll get
a woman. You might get a woman.
We might get Atomic Blonde. What's her name?
But it was a fun caper movie. Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, was very good in it.
Since my baby left me,
Kylo Ren is in it as well.
Oh God, another whiny millennial.
So you got Magic Mike. You got Kylo Ren. You got James Bond.
But, Kylo Ren.
There's some good. Oh, even the Winter Soldier, Bucky's in it.
Oh God, it was Chris Evans can't be far behind.
Right.
But
it's a fun heist movie. It's just if you just want to go see something and have fun and enjoy something, it's worth going to see. I love Soderbergh, so I'm gonna promote him here.
Cool.
My number 8 is an independent film that probably nobody's heard of. It's called Ingrid Goes West. It's starring...
If Ingrid went east, I wouldn't have heard of it. No one told me.
It just came out. It's starring Aubrey Plaza and O'Shea Jackson Jr., who's Ice Cube's son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I
won't say anything bad about him then. I'm scared of Ice Cube.
But it's basically the story about social media and how people are sucked into it. And so she's kind of this stalker. She gets in this big fight with her friend, doesn't get invited to her wedding and all this stuff, and kind of loses her marbles.
So it could happen.
And then after that friendship breaks down, she finds it's actually Scarlet Witch. It's Elizabeth Olsen. Again, she's busy. She finds her character online and then starts following her and moves out to California to meet her and stalk her. And so it's kind of this stalker story about modern
so
days.
It's everyday life.
Yeah, and it's very relevant.
That never happens.
And Aubrey Plaza gives a great performance.
That sounds interesting.
Elizabeth Olsen's really good at it.
I want
But
to see
really,
it now.
who steals the scenes is Ice Cube Jr. Like he actually stole.
I gotta say, it was a good day
For him on set. It must have been because, like, he has this humorous tone, just a very natural. Like he comes across very natural. Like I was very impressed with O'Shea. So check out Ingrid Goes West if you can.
O'Shea is okay with me.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I'll move quickly on to another number 7, and you'll start to see like my top 10. There aren't going to be a lot of sequels. There aren't going to be a lot of superhero. I might throw it in there a little bit.
I understand.
But I love original films, stuff that I've never seen before, even though this is a remake. Number 7 is a remake of an old Clint Eastwood movie, which I've never seen, so I can't say it wasn't original because it was original to me, was The Beguiled. It was Colin Farrell, Elle Fanning, Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst. Great script. Great cast, just a haunting story set in the Civil War about a Confederate soldier who a wounded Confederate soldier who ends up in the Union soldier, wounded Union soldier that ends up at a boarding house of like Confederate women, and they take care of him, and they're all and these women are kind of isolated, so you can imagine when a young man comes in.
I'm so trying to sidestep that. I'm walking on
so there's
glass
definitely
here,
those sexual undertones to the story,
Yeah.
but great acting, great script, great direction by Sofia Coppola. That one should be on your list to watch. Okay. Number 6 is another independent film, Big Sick. We talked about a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to see it. Yeah. It just looked funny. It just looked like it would be a really heartwarming kind of comedy,
and
drama.
It was.
Is it a dramedy?
It is a dramedy because his wife or his girlfriend goes into a coma.
Well, that's never fun.
No, and then it's kind of this story of him building this relationship with her parents. It's like he broke up. They broke up before she goes into a coma. So really, they're broke up during it.
Wow.
So it's kind of got that interesting, dynamic of like, and the parents know everything.
This sounds like a Sandra Bullock movie.
It is a little bit similar to that.
What was that called? Something So Right? Or
While You Were Sleeping.
While You Were Sleeping. They changed it, apparently.
But this is completely different. It's from a perspective that you don't see a lot, and that's the Pakistan. Kamal Nanjiani is Pakistani. And so you get that that perspective that you don't see a lot in film and television, because this is it's his true story. It's him and his wife's true story.
Wow.
Yeah. So
didn't know that.
It's really well done, funny. Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, and it's worth seeing again. That's number 6, Big 6. Now we're going to start getting into my top 5. There are some movies you've actually seen.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
So you can talk
It's
more.
been a lean year. That's why the box office sucked, because I didn't go to every damn movie this year. I didn't have the opportunity. I was working and learning and doing other things. And hopefully becoming successful.
My number 5, we actually went and
Yeah.
saw together. Atomic Blonde.
It's actually, I'm going to give it away because I had to get it. I'm just going to give you a top 5 for mine because I didn't see as many of these movies on the list here. But Atomic Blonde is my honorable mention. I think that movie captured the Cold War, the Berlin Wall coming down and all that. It captured it. It was, when they said the female James Bond, I could see it.
Absolutely.
It was gritty. You wanted grittier.
I wanted grittier because it's done by the same guy who did the John Wick movies.
Right.
So
And that was another one I missed, the John Wick. But John Wick 2, I didn't go see it because I'm still upset about his beagle getting killed in the first one. It still disturbs me to this day. So, they've seen John Wick by now.
You'd hope.
But I've heard good things about John Wick, even though it did okay.
No, it's yeah. So I like graphic violence. I think I've said that in this program
Wow.
before. But I just kind of like that. How do they do that kind of aspect about it?
You're straight out of Savannah.
Yeah, yeah, right. They did. Yeah, I think it could have been grittier, but a lot of people don't like that, so I think they pulled back on. There was a less gunplay. See, John Wick, it's all gunplay. So in this, they do a lot more.
Father figure.
They do a lot more hand-to-hand combat, and especially in that scene, I'll never listen.
Yeah. I was upset, and we were talking about this before we started recording. The only thing I was upset is because I'm in the theater, kind of singing along, and I'm looking for 99
Father Figure. Yeah, because I'll never listen to Father Figure by George Michael again.
And without thinking of Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it almost reminded me of Watchmen. You know why? Because they had 99 red balloons and they had that 80s vibe going on.
The soundtrack
is awesome. The soundtrack is great, and it's more than just 80s music on there. So it's just, it's a really good soundtrack, And I just think, gosh, what's her name? I forgot the actress.
Charlize
Theron. Now,
Furiosa.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think if villain of the year, she should have, if there's a thing, she should win that for the Fate of the Furious. And the Fate of the Furious came out in April, so technically it's not a summer movie as we consider it. That's why it's not on the list, because it probably would have made my top 10 or top whatever. But Charlize Theron played such a wonderful role in that movie as a villain, and to see her be this good agent.
Yeah, I mean,
she did a kick-ass, no pun intended, role here, and I really enjoyed Atomic Blonde.
And they can do a franchise here. It may keep her from becoming James Bond, but Jane. I'm sorry, Jane Bond. Jane Bond.
Jane Bond.
But yeah, it it captured that era, the look, the feel, the sound, everything about it.
The
was
cinematography was spot
gorgeous,
on. It
absolutely.
was gorgeous.
And you knew what kind of movie you were going to see right away, because what happens at the beginning is dude gets hit by the car and it flips. It's like crazy.
I'm like, ouch.
Crazy stunts, amazing stunts.
Yeah, yes. Wow. A very good movie. Maybe it should be in my top movies. It should probably be higher than I put it as an honorable mention.
You got time to fix that.
But I got to choose between my children here, so
now my number 4. I know it's in your top 5. I can't remember what number it was, but my number 4 is Wonder Woman. It's hard to I wanted to put it higher, but the 3 above it, I have a place for.
Okay.
But Wonder Woman we talked about a little bit earlier, so we won't go into it again too much. But it was, it is a game-changing film,
and a female director,
female lead, female director, and for it to be so well done, so well received, that it is a game changer for Hollywood, and maybe they'll bank on more female leads. Who knows? If you have the right script, why not?
Well, just like Atomic Blonde. That's for the action. We definitely need more females in the forefront. We need them in front of the camera, but we also need them behind the camera. We need them as producers, directors, and I like the female voice, as it were, through the filmmaking process. And it's something that it's untapped potential. It's like a whole bunch of oil. Well, this is a bad analogy, and we found an oil. We struck oil here. They're just tapping into it with Wonder Woman, and I'm more for a green planet, so maybe oil's not the analogy I'm wanting. But
amazing it took this long for that character to be a lead.
She has. Patty Jenkins has totally saved the DC extended universe because
for now.
it was so for now because it was so dark. And what interests me is to see Justice League later this year and to see if they change Wonder Woman, because we may never know how she was in there, because obviously she was added on to Batman versus Superman, and even though she was one of the highlights of it, and after seeing Wonder Woman, I really think it's going to change. I mean, Superman's supposed to be the main focus, and now really it's Wonder Woman.
It looks like he's barely even in this new one, in Justice League, which makes sense.
And this movie,
because of the way
the death of Superman, but
that ended.
He's going to show up in the end.
Of course.
But here's the thing. This movie has done like $400 million. It's outpaced Man of Steel, which is the head of that universe. It was the Iron Man of like the DC universe, and including Iron Man and all origin stories. It is now, at least domestically, the all-time origin story for a superhero film or superheroine. I still just say superhero. So, but Wonder Woman spectacular. So, very good one.
Absolutely. And then number 3, probably the most unique film of the year, and arguably one of the most unique is Baby Driver.
Yeah, and I would probably have that in my top whatever.
I think you would.
If I've seen it, but I didn't get a chance to see it because I was actually working on set, and I was supposed to go see it this week, and I haven't worked that out yet. So
do it as soon as you can.
And I'll probably come back on it. I'll probably come back on a future episode and mention how much I liked it and the unique way the film was made. Okay,
it is because
there's your invite to come on back.
The director Edgar Wright, who's done Shaun of the Dead,
love Shaun of the
Hot
Dead,
Fuzz, and what was the World's End? World's End. That was his his supernatural trilogy, and now he's gotten into this car chase.
There's a lot of Simon Pegg in that.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. And
he's not a Baby Driver. Is he?
No, he didn't. Okay. He didn't show up. I half expected him to, but it's really Ansel Elgort. It's he's Baby, and he kind of drives this film.
But how they made the film and on the technical side, how they made it, and they would do a shoot or two
with the soundtrack.
Yeah,
and the soundtrack has like 50 songs. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's constantly. It sounds like a kind of movie that I would like to make. The type of movie I would like to make, like a long music video, essentially with different songs.
No, it is, and he put a lot of thought into
the pacing.
What song was going to go where. He knew, like when they're shooting, he knew what song was going to go there.
I did watch online how it was made, and very impressed by that. And also watched the opening scene, and it showed exactly where in like Atlanta the scenes.
That was cool. Seeing all these high speed chases on the Atlanta highway.
You can never do that in Atlanta. You'll be going 80 miles an hour or stopped dead in traffic. But yeah, I'm gonna see that. So,
but excellent performances. I mean, Jamie Foxx is great as a villain in there. John Hamm's awesome. Kevin Spacey. I mean, great cast, great music. You just can't get over about how he matched up the music with the film. It's like when they're just little things like when
seamless.
Gunshots are going off, like the gun is going with the beat of the music. Like he put that.
Is it kind
thought.
of not stop motion? What's the technique I'm looking for? That or is it like bullet time slowing down? Slowing the frames down. And stuff. Yeah.
No, I think it's just. I mean, there is a little bit of that. I think with the editing, you got to slow it down to match it up.
But no, yeah, I'm not taking away from that. I'm saying that would probably add to it. Since that's kind of the way to go.
That was another fun.
Would enhance it.
Well written script. I mean, and just great performances. And
I'm really psyched up to see it now.
I
Was psyched up to see it before. I just didn't get there.
Now, my number two. Now, number 1 and 2 these two are the only two that I could see being nominated for Best Picture so far.
Okay.
Number 2 is Detroit. It's Catherine Bigelow, who won an Oscar for The Hurt Locker.
Right.
She's back doing another important American story.
It did look like an intriguing storyline, and it's based on a true story.
Based on a true story about the riots in Detroit, and how 3 men lost their lives, in a tragic, obviously a tragic way.
Right.
And this is the true story behind it. There's racial tensions. It's racially fueled film. It's like
it's true to the story. It's true to the time.
Right. It's a movie that is important to what's going on in society today.
With
relations between
John Boyega.
Boyega.
I can never say his name. Finn. He's Finn to me.
So John Boyega is fantastic. He's got one scene in an interrogation room that he could be nominated for an Oscar for.
Wow.
He has these moments. He has Denzel moments in the movie. He really does. It's like wow. Okay, he's not just Finn.
Right.
He can do other things.
Good. Because I want these characters to have lives. These actors to have lives beyond Star Wars. Exactly. Don't always be Finn. But
Boyega's great. Who else is in that? Will Poulter, who's like, he was the funny in We're the Millers. He's the funny kid, but in this, he is the racist cop that is basically spearheading this whole thing, and it's a really good performance. Gilly from Game of Thrones is in it. Her and another young actress that was in Justified, who's great. Okay. They're two white girls that are caught up in it, and they're fantastic in it too. Great acting, great script again. I mean, and it's especially because of its subject matter, it's going to be recognized later this year. So that brings me to my number one. There is nothing to me comes close to it.
Surprisingly enough, when we get to my list, not so high.
I get it. I feel like the structure of the film probably turns people off, but the movie that I'm talking about is Dunkirk. I think it's the best film of the year, and I loved Logan. But this takes number 1 for me, mainly because of the structure and the way Christopher Nolan... You better watch out.
If Logan were still around, he'd take you out for saying that.
Probably. But just the structure of the film and the way it's made, like Christopher Nolan he's fantastic at playing with time. If you go back and look at his previous films, he always plays with time a little bit. Obviously with Inception... I mean, even a little bit in The Dark Knight, he does. And then Insomnia.
Definitely Insomnia. I loved Insomnia, too.
So he's got these Interstellar. Like, there's this whole...
I like that, too.
He's got this common theme of playing with time. So in Dunkirk, he has 3 stories. Right. He's got his air, land, and sea. And the people on the land, it's taking place over a week. The people on the boat in the sea, it's over a day. In the air, it's over an hour.
Yeah, see, maybe that's where my little brain got a little lost, because it said like day 1 or whatever. And for me, though, I agree. I think it's Oscar worthy. I think it's going to get those nominations. I was surprised. Is it One Direction?
Harry Styles.
He was
really good.
He was really good in there. He can act in there, But I mean, I think it's going to get all the awards. I can see it cleaning up and not have I wouldn't have a problem with that.
It's early. We still haven't seen the majority of the Oscar films. They haven't even.
The Last Jedi.
Even know. We don't even know what the Oscar films are going to be like. But
I know.
Dunkirk
let's hope they get it right.
Should stick around in the conversation.
I think it should too. But for me, though, it felt a little laboring to try to keep up with the different time shifts and the air, land, and sea. But is it was a great movie still. It wasn't at all a bad movie. Because of I'm more geek centric, even though I do like deeper, more emotional films and engaging films, and I feel this is probably a more important film than probably anything on the list or on my list. I didn't rank it as high on.
Well, and see, that's why you have me on, because I'm gonna.
You're my balance. You bring balance to the force,
right? And your audience may like the.
They're more geeky, but I think they're certainly intelligent enough that they can appreciate Dunkirk.
No, and it's not like I don't enjoy.
No, I know you do.
These superhero movies, I do.
You're not afraid to geek out with me to get you geeked on.
Just for me, just the structure of that film and the way it flowed and the way it all comes together at the end. Tom Hardy was,
Tom Hardy is a good actor.
He has very little to do in this film.
I had to say it,
but he's very good, and Mark Rylance, who just won an Oscar, he's great as the old man in the boat, the civilian that comes to the rescue. He's fantastic, and and it's just it really is deserving.
Well, the only problem I kind of had with it, and I think Cheryl may have pointed this out when we were watching it, is there were a lot more boats out there, in the water, and they focus so much on that one boat that you don't see the flotilla of boats that actually were going back and forth. You don't see it as much, and I know why they did that, to really focus on that story.
Let's tell a story about every boat.
No. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you should have seen more of them in the background coming and going, and then they could have focused in on that one boat as they did. And that's being nitpicky.
That
but
really is. I'm not gonna devalue your opinion there, but
that's okay.
I think you have to focus in on that,
especially
when you're saying it's already confusing,
right? Well, the thing is, I would have probably shown if it were me, and I'm certainly not telling them how to make your movie, but me personally, I probably would have had an over, wide shot of all these boats going back and forth, and then I would have focused in on that boat, and then I probably would have been fine with it had I had that establishing shot of all these, boats coming and going, but it was a very good movie, very good movie. So that was your number one.
That's my number one, Dunkirk.
Your number one.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, now I feel ashamed now after listening to your top 10.
Well,
my top 5.
You didn't get to see as much as I did,
right? So. Let's see. We already mentioned my honorable mention. I'm throwing an honorable mention in Atomic Blonde because, like I said earlier, I enjoyed that movie so much. Number 5 for me was War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yes, we did.
I had such high expectations, and it was a good movie. It underperformed by some of the standards, but I think a contending best actor for Andy Serkis. I totally think he could pull off a best actor nomination for his performance in that. It was that good, and doing motion capture on top of that.
I agree, and there needs to be that precedent set for, look, we're going to recognize a motion capture actor because they're still acting. Their face doesn't end up on the screen the way it is shot.
Well, Gollum,
their emotions
Lord of the Rings,
are there.
There's so much. He is such a brilliant actor, and the first time we really see him on screen is in Age of Ultron, and where you see his face, but he definitely carried that movie in a good way. Woody Harrelson was much better than I thought he would be. He was an understandable bad guy because kind of like Michael Keaton in Spider-Man: Homecoming,
he lost
you were sympathetic. They weren't you weren't one-sided. They weren't just evil to be evil. Right. They had a reason why they were evil, and you kind of sympathize. It's quote unquote sympathy for the devil. In a sense, and you get their character motivation essentially. But that was number 5 on my list. Now number 4 was Dunkirk. Okay. And, I'm thinking, I'm rethinking and thinking, and I mentioned the reasons probably why I didn't put it higher on my list, but it's kind of hard for when you have other movies, so many movies. None of these are losers to me. They're movies I did find great value in and didn't mind spending $10 trillion on. And this was just, it's another Academy Award nominated movie, or should be, or will be, I believe. Number 3 on my list, which may surprise some people, but Wonder Woman. At one point when we saw it in the IMAX 3D, I was blown away.
See, that's why I thought you were going to have it as number 1, but then you said you saw it a second time, and
we saw it a second time in 2D, and I know that takes down the experience. You don't have the sound, the picture wasn't, as spectacular. Everything pales to IMAX 3D. The Big D does a good job and all that, but the initial, I was, the hype was going on. I was caught up in that, and I was so excited to see a female director and to see Wonder Woman finally make it to the big screen. Still, my all-time Wonder Woman's going to be Linda Carter, but Gal Gadot did a spectacular job. I felt the empathy of the character. I did have a problem with Ares, the god of war, the little switcheroo they did with that, and I'm glad he showed up in his armor that he did, because I was afraid we were going to get like just a humanized version of that, and I'm glad we saw that. But, I had a little problem with Ares as a character and all that. But all in all, this was a triumph. Wonder Woman is a triumph. It's a triumph for Patty Jenkins, for female directors. It's a triumph for a lot of reasons. And if Moonlight, was a triumph for the genre movie that it was, Wonder Woman should be for girl power, or something, right. But we need to get beyond it's great because it's a female movie. I wouldn't have put it in there because it's, it's just great as a female director, a female lead in a movie. I would put it in there because I think it's a solid movie.
Yeah, don't get us wrong.
Right.
It's
We're
a
not
good
just
movie. It's not just because of the social ramifications.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not just because because these ladies did such excellent jobs. Or because who they are. It's not the status so much. It still comes down. Is it a good script? Is it a good story? Did it remind me of Captain America: The First Avenger? Yes. Were there some parts I didn't like on my second viewing that I kind of, nitpicked at? Yes. But all in all, very good movie, and I could watch it again. I know I'll watch it again. Number 2 on my list, Spider-Man: Homecoming. And we talked a little bit about this before, but I think that Tom Holland did a great job encompassing Peter Parker. He's right up there with Tobey Maguire as my favorite Spider-Man, my favorite Peter Parker. And I guess Spider-Man 2 now, because I liked the gadgets. I liked the look and the feel of the suit. I liked Tom Holland's performance. He made it believable. He was that awkward teenager. He was Peter Parker, what Stan Lee and them wrote Peter Parker to be and originally imagined. I think we finally got the right actor. Not taking anything from Tobey Maguire, I think he was a great... Spider-Man 2 is still... This rivals Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man film of all time, and I have such high regards of all superhero movies. Spider-Man 2 is way up there, so that's saying something really positive about Spider-Man.
Which one's the one with Jamie Foxx?
That was Andrew Garfield's. That was Amazing Spider-Man 2. And Andrew Garfield, I'll tell you, Hacksaw Ridge, when he did Hacksaw Ridge, surprised the hell out of me because he should have got, won something for that. His role was incredible in that. I really enjoyed Hacksaw Ridge. I really, not comparing it to Dunkirk, but, they're different stories and everything. But what a realistic battle scene. And I know we're getting off subject there, but.
Yeah, back to Spider-Man. I mean, it was, I don't have it as high as yours. I think it was,
it was
Marvel
fun.
Exactly. Marvel doesn't tend to get it wrong.
Right.
So it's like, it's enjoyable. But for me, it's like all these Marvel films they don't separate themselves from each other. I think that's why I loved Guardians, because it was so unique, and and to me it's separate. The original, the first one, and the second one I love too, but the first one I felt like it definitely kind of got away from that tone of, the glossy tone of everything's going to be okay. Tone, and this was a more, Guardians had that more fun, humorous tone, which looks like they're going to do with Thor, the new Thor. It's like they've switched the tone.
Oh my gosh, I think totally with the new director, it's basically Guardians 3.
Right.
I mean, it's totally got, and it works, and I think it's going to be awesome.
think it'll work too.
Because honestly, if they followed the same formula and closed out Chris Hemsworth's third outing as Thor in the old formula, this just feels like, it totally feels like Guardians. You can see the Guardians influence everywhere, and I like it.
Oh,
and,
even in the visuals.
The visuals, are totally, in the stop motion. It's a totally different Thor, and he's going to look totally different.
My favorite actress, Cate Blanchett, coming in and playing the villain. I mean,
it's going to be interesting. In the destruction of Asgard, that's going to be. This movie's going to be Avengers. Yeah. I don't know what we're up to, 2.8. I don't know, 3.1.
But what's your number one, buddy?
Well, you just said it. Drum roll.
Drum roll. Drum roll.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Absolutely.
The opening scene with Groot was worth the price of admission. It was hilarious. It was fun. Was it predictable? Yeah, there were parts. Was it filmed locally? Yes. Did I almost get to walk on the base camp? Yes. When I was back in my GFA classes and all that, before I became a sound mixer and all that. And I actually was near the base camp and all that. And I was like, gosh, I want to stop there and see. But it turned out really well.
And actually the only...
fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's...
And they didn't have to.
Fun.
And I'm glad they didn't go, I'm Star-Lord, man. Even though I was saying that in the theater, we didn't need that catchphrase again. We didn't need another catchphrase.
The reason why I didn't have it in my top 10, and the main reason was, it's because it's a sequel. I mean, and maybe I shouldn't, knock films just because they're sequels. But it just because it was so much like the original that I just didn't.
I know it was Volume 2. It really was Volume 2. Yeah. It felt like a continuation. But I loved Kurt Russell's performance in it as Ego, the Living Planet. And being Star-Lord's dad, and I think it all worked. Drax the Destroyer. I was going to say he was unusually cruel to. I can't think of the character's name. The antenna girl.
Yeah, but I think that was
right now.
the fun part of the or a good part. That was one of the more memorable parts of the movie is like his
good humor, but it was almost rude, but it was funny, and it wasn't my favorite part.
Asperger's.
That's a good thought. Maybe he does. Maybe he does.
But yeah, I agree. It was a great movie, fun movie, but I think I just knocked it down a little bit because it's not necessarily that original.
It didn't break any new ground for you, and that's kind of what you're.
Will I go see it again? Yeah. Will I buy it on Blu-ray? Yeah.
I don't even buy Blu-rays anymore. I don't even stream. I don't know. I just
wasting money, maybe.
I don't know. No. Not against the movies. Just I don't know. I'm so busy now. It seems like, but
I think that was. I mean, that's a good list there.
And there were other ones. Had they come out later, Logan would have been in my top 10.
Oh yeah, Logan would be my number 2 probably.
Yeah, it would be 1 or 2 for me. Fate of the Furious would have been in there. Lego Batman movie would have been in there. Yeah. I enjoyed that. That was just a fun, good movie. And I didn't get to see Get Out, but I would have, had I seen it, I probably would have had it in there.
It's good. I think it's a little overblown, but I understand why it's overblown when something makes that much money and the budget's so small. Right. And it's like, it's people are going to clamor about it. And again, it is the themes of it are racial. Like there's a racial, the racial issue about it. And it is, I won't spoil it for you because the big part of it, it says a lot of socially.
Well, I mean, I think I know enough about it that you couldn't spoil it, but
well, I won't spoil it for anybody out there.
There were some other movies that were released earlier, like Boss Baby. I heard was funny, and
did not see
Split. I wanted to see Split. M. Night Shyamalan's on his way back.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome film.
When we get to our year end, those ones. I don't know about Boss Baby.
And again, I can't.
The rest of them will probably be.
I can't do a little spoiler alert. You probably know that it ties into Shyamalan's universe somehow.
And they're making a sequel to Unbreakable.
Well, and you watch Split, and you'll see how it ties.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Shyamalan, except the Happening with the trees.
Doesn't matter. I love
one of the possibly worst letdowns of a movie.
I disagree.
For me, and maybe I need to rewatch it with new eyes.
No, people are going to make fun of me for defending The Happening, but
I don't know what was happening. In that movie.
I think it's an intriguing idea that the plants can talk to each other and are going to kill you.
If I could walk with the animals and talk with the animals, then I'd be Dr. Dolittle. But that's another story, or whatever. But there were a lot of, the Great Wall was a loser.
Except in China.
Yeah, except in China. Mark Wahlberg, not Mark Wahlberg, Jason Bourne. Oh gosh, what's his name? Matt Damon. He should have took Casey Affleck's part in
the Manchester instead. Yeah.
Yeah, even though because. The crying movie, as we call it, the sad movie. I still have not seen that, and I'm ashamed I hadn't seen that, but I need to see that.
It's depressing, but yeah I mean, it's well written, but it's hard to watch. It's depressing.
Anything else we haven't covered, sir?
I don't believe so. We got most of it out of the way. I hope we covered all or nearly all the films, so you know what to see and what to avoid.
Yeah, and sorry for the money you've wasted this year, and but we still got coming up. We've got The Last Jedi, which is going to be heartbreaking. Seeing Carrie Fisher for the last time as Princess Leia, it's got ramifications for Episode 9 that was going to focus around her because she was taking a greater role in The Last Jedi, and then whatever Episode 9 was going to be, and so and I'm so excited for it anyway. And
yeah, I'm excited for the Oscar season of movies to come through, because now we're going to get your
serious or
more critically acclaimed. Yeah. We're out of the summer now.
I'm still looking forward to Justice League. I don't care. I'm going to watch it, and I'm probably going to enjoy it and probably defend it. And of course, Thor Ragnarok. I'm gonna love that. There's a lot of other movies, a lot of little movies coming out, or not as big budget. I mean, I don't mean to say little.
Right,
movies.
more movies that I dig. Instead.
Yeah, well, I dig those too. I know I went with some of the great big box office ones on my list here, but there were a lot of smaller movies that I wanted to see. But by the time I got to see them, they were gone. And a lot of things, you have only so many screens, and everything's coming out on 4,000 plus screens, and every movie's topping, so they're taking up all the showings, and you've really got to just find time to go see the little ones, the ones that don't get the notice. And by no means is our list that we have the comprehensive list. I mean, because your taste will obviously be different, and let us know if you disagree, if you violently, well, I hope not violently, but if you disagree with some of our things, let us know at Geek Homeworld on Twitter, and we'll talk about it in a future episode, what you thought, and I know I'll get some feedback, either that or on our Facebook at Geek Homeworld. So, Scott, I want to thank you for joining me and for a very detailed episode. This is our longest episode in the history of the podcast, which we're coming up on the anniversary, September 8th.
You may want to do a little editing. I don't know.
I'm actually doing no editing.
No editing.
I'm recording this on my professional recorder, and it's going to just come right off of that and get uploaded. So
I'll just leave everybody with, sorry the summer wasn't as great as it could have been for movies, but
maybe
I'll give you
and winter will be better.
Right, maybe it'll be better. 2 that are coming up, two on my list that are coming up very soon that I'll leave you with, and then I'll shut up.
Sure. No, you're fine.
Are Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. I do want to see that.
And
I've got to go back and watch the original director's cut.
It's good to do because you
just to familiarize myself with the material.
Yeah, and you have to kind of debate whether Harrison Ford is a replicant or not. That's the debate, and then it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that in the new one. And then the second one, I just saw a preview for it. I had no idea about it. Is called Mother, and it's with Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, and it's this psychological thriller by Darren Aronofsky, who did Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream and Pi, and he's in The Fountain. I mean, he's got a brilliant mind, and to have Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem in it, I mean,
should be interesting.
It's really good.
Now,
so those are my two.
There was one movie, and this isn't on the list, and it probably won't make the year-end list. I don't know yet, but a movie that I saw earlier this year, and I read the book years ago, The Shack, and I don't read a lot of books like I probably should. But that movie for me, and I know it's not to this target audience necessarily, but if you watch that movie, it's beautifully done, and the cinematography is just gorgeous on that. I like the look and the feel of a movie, and it had heart to it also. So I'm just throwing that in there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the year-end thing. I know it'll be there on yours. So
it possibly will.
So to wrap up, what are you looking forward to?
The Last Jedi. Justice League, Thor Ragnarok.
There you go.
I know, and those are all the superhero films, the geeky ones. There are probably some other low-key ones. I wanted to watch Lady Macbeth that came out, even though I realized it's not anything to do with Macbeth.
It's not, no.
That kind of depressed me there. I'm a big Shakespeare fan, big Edgar Allan Poe fan.
From what I read, the lead actress in that gives an amazing performance. I'd like to see it.
I'd like period pieces like that, period dramas. There is the one that it's about the Queen. I cannot remember the name right now, but it's coming out. It's not a geeky movie at all, but.
Oh, with Judi Dench.
With Judi Dench.
Stephen Frears' film, and Stephen Frears' amazing director, so
it
that
looks
should be
like
really good.
An interesting film.
It's about a friendship with the Indian server, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and
or Pakistani or whoever.
I think it's Indian. I'm not sure,
okay.
But because I think she says I'm the Empress of India. So
okay, yeah.
But yeah, that's a more serious. I don't know if it'll be serious film, but it's a more adult or not adult
it'll
film.
Be,
you know what I mean? More grown up
because Stephen Frears is, as I said, is an amazing director.
And Judi Dench. Oh my God!
The last time they were paired together, they did Philomena, and it was up for best picture.
Was a
she
good movie.
Actress,
that was a disturbingly good movie.
It was a fantastic movie, and I think that they have a great rapport together, and that.
So maybe there'll be some more magic that way,
But
that's just some of the things I'm looking for. And I may discover some gems of movies, and that's what always the big surprise is. I'm always going to see the big tentpole release movies, except Power Rangers that sucked this year, and other ones like that, and whatever, Pirates of the Caribbean. But I'm gonna get those. I'm gonna see the tentpole movies, but I'm also love to find those small gems of a movie like The Shack, which I knew about that I loved, that just was wonderful, and hopefully I'm going to find other ones like that. So, hopefully I won't go broke, trying to see all these movies, but always catch a matinee if you can.
That's right.
But
$5 Tuesdays.
$5 Tuesdays. I'm all about it. And alrighty, well, thank you so much, everyone. And like I said, we're coming up. September 8th is going to be an anniversary for the podcast here. I believe our 3rd year podcast. So coming up soon, we're going to probably have something leading up to that. I hadn't figured it out. I've been constantly working on movies, some 48-hour films. I'm doing some shameless promotion here, and I'm a professional sound mixer now, so I'm excited about that. I know you got to work on some movies this year. You were behind the scenes on some movies that you worked on, Scott. So
yeah.
So we're both movie insiders to an extent. And no, we can't talk about anything. I'm just giving my general reviews of movies. And alrighty, well, thank you all for listening to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm Ed, formerly known as, or still known as, SavageTechman. I'm trying to go by the real name now. So check me out. Well, don't check me out, but check out our podcast. And yes, congratulations to the longest episode ever of the podcast. So, but well worth it. We had a lot to cover. And thank you for being patient and listening. And we hope to get more episodes out and talk about more of these movies. And I want to do more talk about the industry and stuff like that we're working in the movie industry, and when it's relevant to this. So thank you, Scott, and thank you, everybody, and say goodbye.
Happy to do it. Thanks, bud.
All right, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.